Oh, hey there. Didn't see you there. Come a little closer. How's it going? So, I know why you're here. It's obvious to me why you're here. You know, you want to know the secrets of the Big Mario wall jump. Well, let me tell you, you've come to the right place. And the reason you're here is because you want to look like this guy. So, let's get into it. All right, before we get started here, let's go over a little bit of background information on how this trick works that I think is important for you to understand prior to attempting it. So the first thing you need to understand is subpixels. So the question you probably have is, what is a subpixel? Well, let's consider Mario's furthest right pixel that he's standing on. There are positions that Mario can actually be standing on within that individual pixel that you can't visually see. Think of it as a zoomed out map, and then the actual position of Mario being coordinates on the map that is, you know, a point so small that you're not able to actually view it, right? Or for a scientific comparison, think of it as a microscope that's able to zoom in and go into more detail. So we number the subpixels on the x-axis 0 through 15. So there are 16 on the x-axis. 0 is the furthest left subpixel that Mario can be on, and 15 is the furthest right subpixel that Mario can be on. So as you're advancing through the numbers, think of it as you're moving further to the right on that individual pixel. So what that means is if you go from 0 to 15, you'll visually see Mario move one pixel left. And if you go from 15 to 0, you'll visually see Mario move one pixel right. So just if you want a visual of what that looks like. So we're going to use the handy dandy teleprompter here. And so the subpixels that work for Big Mario wall jump are 14 through 15 and 0 through 7. So these are consecutive subpixels. It seems like all these subpixel specific tricks seem to work on consecutive subpixels and not work on consecutive. So this, I don't know why that is. Just understand that if something works on like 14 and it works on 7, it's probably going to work at, or it should work based on my knowledge, at every subpixel in between. So we're not going to test every single subpixel that it works on in this demo, but we are going to go over some that I think are important. So the first one here, I actually have 15, but 14 is basically the same. Just trust me, it works on 14 as well. It works on 10 total if you do the math. So 10 of the 16. All right, so going into the level, we have some important markers that I want you to consider first. So these blocks here are really, or this block here is really important for this trick. So these ice blocks, I want you to think of them as actually 4 tiles. So they kind of look like this in reality, even though visually it's only one object. So, and for this, we'll just use the top and bottom tiles because we only care about the front 2. Okay. So the manipulation for the Big Mario wall jump is rubbing on this first block here. So ideally, you want to rub about the top like 25% or 33% of this block. And that will work on every subpixel that the trick works on. However, most of the subpixels will work even if you're doing like the top half of the block. So, but however, the ones on the furthest right, so 6 and 7, they actually, for some reason, will only work when you rub a small portion of the block. But you can't go too small. You can't go like 10%, for instance. It's got to be about 25 to 33% of the block. How I do that consistently, or at least, you know, I try to at least rub that half the block consistently. It is hard to get that really, really small portion 100% consistent, but I use the visual cue of this line right here. So as you can see, rubbing that or jumping at this point kind of gets you a fairly consistent rub of the upper half. So that's what we're looking at here. So that's kind of the visual cue I use. So again, just for repetition, it's going to be this like line. So I use this, I don't know if you see this little white notch here at the bottom of the screen, so the end of that is basically what I use for visual cue. From that point, everything's the exact same. So if we go further to the right here, you don't want to rub on this block, although I did it in my PB and got lucky and still got the wall jump. Don't do that, ideally. But if it happens, you know, at least try it, because again, you could get lucky. Where you want to jump to the wall is actually about right here. So, and that lines you up in a good spot. So let's, sorry, I was actually wrong there. It's actually right here. So you want to jump about right here on that beginning. I don't know if you see that, like, that diagonal white line, but the beginning of it, it's a really good visual cue for lining you up to where you want to hit the wall at. So, you know, something like that gets you in the spot, because ideally you want to hit like this spot in the wall roughly, which is right in the gap between the two blocks. There's a little bit of a pixel window between the two blocks that will allow you to wall jump, so you want to be able to hit like right in that window. It's a few pixels above and below that'll work, and that's just a good lineup to do it there. So visually, let's go over what this looks like. So the whole trick in one go, hopefully we get it here, no pressure. Boom, right? That's what it looks like in its entirety on subpixel 15 there. So yeah, let's go to a different subpixel. Let's actually go to 7. So 7, as I said, is the furthest right subpixel. This one is the most difficult. So as I mentioned before, we're only going to try to rub about, like, I don't know, roughly that much of the block. And you'll find if we do more than that, it's not going to work. So I will try to demonstrate both things so it makes sense. All right, so first one here should work. Boom, works. All right, now we'll do the next one, see if that works. Where we rub a little bit more. So that was about half, right? Doesn't work. However, if we go back to 15, whoops, it's hard to purposely do it bad, and rub half there, it actually works, right? So that's what I mean when I say the execution's a little more specific on the furthest right portion of the subpixel window. So 6 and 7 is going to be really difficult. For the other ones, you mostly can just rub this like top half the block and you'll be fine. So what I try to do when I execute it, and so that's why I kind of use this visual cue again, you know, we're talking about this line right here. The reason that I use that visual cue is because if I miss it late, at least, you know, I'll have an opportunity to get the wall jump. So, all right, let's end off with going over some pros and cons of the Big Mario wall jump. Let's first start with the cons here. So, cons, the first one here is it's a frame perfect trick every time. So you get 1 frame when you hit the wall to actually jump up the wall. As small Mario, sometimes you'll get 2 frames. So it does make it potentially a significantly easier trick, but with that being said, you still want to do it on the first frame every time, because that's the only way you can guarantee always getting it, if it allows you to do it. So it's not such a big deal, but it is something worth noting that it is a little more difficult for that reason. The second piece of it is it does require more specific execution. So the initial block rub is a necessary part of the trick versus with Small Mario. Really, the key is just hitting that pixel window on the wall and hoping for the best. So, you know, there is that extra element of having to rub the block correctly in order to get the desired result. And then the third one, which is probably the most significant, is the retries are more difficult. So for that reason, you don't see me go for it in marathon runs or races, because there's no guarantee I'll get it in a reasonable amount of time after the first try if I don't get it on the first try. So with that being said, I've had some decent luck in PB attempts, but you know, the retries are difficult, and that is something worth noting, and that's probably the most significant con of the trick itself. With that being said, there are some pretty significant pros. So the main one I would say is you have better odds on the first try of getting it. So with Small Mario, only subpixels 0 through 5 work. And with this one, you know, it's 6 versus 10. So that's a 66% increased chance of getting it on the first try. For me, that was the important part of why I have chosen to start doing this versus Small Mario, is because if I'm not getting it on the first try, there's really no point in me playing 6-9. I might as well just play 6-10. The other main benefit is that it does save 70 frames because you don't have to take damage and re-grab the power-up, so you save 94 frames there and you lose about 24 with the wall bump, so it's about a 70 frame advantage your way. And also keeping that power up allows you to go for 6F3 clip, which, you know, isn't even really worth mentioning, which is why it's not on the list here, because no one ever gets that in a good run unless you're Kurua. And then the third one, which is the most important reason, is obviously you're a Gigachad if you go for it, and you know, because it looks cool. And so the verdict of all this is that 610 is bad. So you know, delete 610, get it out of your repertoire. Let's start doing some wall jumps here. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be doing more videos like this in the future. So if you have suggestions for things you'd like explanations for, I do highly encourage you to leave that in the comments. And if you like this video, you know, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll be putting out some more Mario 3 content and just speedrunning content in general in the future. So hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you out there.